Right. All right. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope the day is going great. Before we begin, I am Casey. I'm not single. I've been married for 14 years. Will you guys just let me know that you can hear me okay? Will somebody just give me a thumbs up, a yes, a we got you, we see you, we hear you. Someone just let me know that audio is live and well. How can I help you down here in SD? Projects, baby. I need more projects. Do you own crypto? I do. All right, thumbs up. We're good. Okay, my crypto is basic, super basic. I'm sitting on Bitcoin. I've got Ethereum, some Solana, some XRP. I have Bonk. It's a long story. I made a bet on one of the pin highs and won some Bonk. I have some Floki. I have a couple trash coins. That's more of a joke though. Can't hear you. Somebody said they could. How did you heal from mold? That was brutal. What we did, we changed our diet. My wife and I started basically eating. We cut out all processed foods. We cut out almost all sugar. Basically we basically went on to a carnivore diet is what we had to do. Let's see. I live in Newbury Park. Man, how do I start investing? Marco, you're in my hometown, baby. How do you start investing? Okay, I'll tell you how I started. These are the things that everyone has access to. You can start by, if you want to do some long-term investing, you can start by opening up a Roth IRA. If you're employed and your employer does a 401k match, that's typically something you want to contribute to because they're matching you. That's a guaranteed return. So this is what most people do. If you have an employer match, people typically put that amount that they will match to into their 401k. And then they'll open a Roth IRA, contribute to the Roth IRA. And then after that, if they want to continue investing in, let's say, the stock market, well, you open up a brokerage account, and you start making investments post-tax dollars. What you invest in is usually the harder part for people. I always recommend kind of Warren Buffett's advice, which I just think is great. If you're not like following the market and you don't really like know much about the market, the best thing you can do is invest in the market, in the S&P 500. So you can find companies like, let's say, Vanguard. Vanguard has a fund that tracks the S&P 500, VOO. You can find things like that you can invest in, and then that's basically like investing in the S&P 500. And then if you want to invest in, we were starting off talking about crypto. You can invest in crypto. My recommendation would be, if you're going to invest in crypto is still very risky. And so just be aware of that it's volatile and it doesn't have proof of concept yet. Now, I think crypto is absolutely the future, but that doesn't mean that all of the coins are going to succeed. And even though I think Bitcoin is turning into that store of value, doesn't mean it has to. So just be mindful that there's risk there. And then if you want to start investing in something like real estate, most people's probably options for real estate is one, you save up to buy a house. Two, and this is something that really you can do at a young age, is invest in a REIT, in a public REIT. It's basically like investing in a dividend stock that's backed by real estate. Or you can start saving your money to be able to make investments in real estate passively. There are sites that open up private investments for you to invest in. There's a site called CrowdStreet, and there's a site called Fundrise. There's actually a lot of sites like that. So those are kind of your options. I'm probably missing a bunch, but there's some options. Can you buy Borchard and make it into a plaza? Cole, Right now, I can't. The park and Rec owns that property. Now they are about to do a scrape and build. They're about to scrape the skate park and build it out like 3 times as large. And the design actually looks pretty cool. It's not a plaza, but it is pretty rad. Real questions. The photo bum. What are the disadvantages of buying a house when getting a gift of equity? Okay, so photo bump, I'm guessing when you say getting a gift of equity, you mean maybe your parents are helping you out with the down payment is going to kind of be my assumption. Here's basically what you need. It's not disadvantages. That's maybe the wrong way to look at it. Some of the things that you're looking at when you're purchasing a house, I think first and foremost, what most people don't do, and I think everybody needs to, is they need to look at opportunity cost and probably decide what path they're on. Are you on more of the conventional path? Nothing wrong with it, but if you're on more of the conventional path, well, you're going to look at buying a house and, saving your money, paying off your house over time. That's one path. The other path is trying to get to financial freedom as soon as possible. And if your goal is to get to financial freedom as soon as possible, buying a house first usually isn't the best option. You're usually looking at investments that can get you a higher return than your primary. And so you kind of just have to decide what path you're on. Let's say you're like, you know what, I want to buy the house. Some of the things that you need to be mindful of is maintenance. I think this is a big one that people don't consider. You got to pay maintenance costs. So you're going to have to save money every month for your maintenance so that when things go wrong, you have the money to pay for it. I would say another one is you need to be mindful of the total expenses going into your home. When you buy a home, you do have more you're responsible for, right? Property taxes come into play. And so you want to look at everything, right? Your utilities, mortgage, taxes, insurance, and see what you're left with at the end of the month. A lot of times when people get into a house, they end up having less money to spend on kind of their lifestyle. And then they feel like they're struggling. Well, it's not a feel. So much of their money is going towards the house that they don't have the discretionary cash to kind of do some of the fun stuff that they were used to doing. So just be mindful of that. You just want to kind of plan for it. All right, let's see. Farewell, my man. Gift of equity is amazing. Assume this is such a good one. Farewell is the guy. If anybody's in the Ventura County area and they want to buy a house, Farewell is the guy to speak to. Farewell Mortgage Team. Gift of equity is amazing. Assume parents own the home. Say valued at $800K, but they are going to sell to you for $600K and basically gift you the $200K equity difference. Keeps property taxes lower. Oh, is that what he was asking? Did I misunderstand that? Was he kind of asking how it's done? Or was he asking what to prepare for? Maybe I didn't answer that right. That's my bad if not. Sorry, I want to clarify. Buying a house from a family member. So gift of equity is the down payment goes into the mortgage costs instead of putting a down payment down. Got it. All right. Do you own out-of-state rentals? Angela, I do own out-of-state rentals. I own about, how many units? About 9,000 units of storage. And out of that 9,000, probably 6 of it is out of state. The majority of our storage is out of state. So the answer is yes, you can absolutely invest out of state. You just need to get a couple things in place prior so that you can make sure it's successful. I would say the big ones are I guess it depends if you're buying something existing or if you're building. If you're building, you're going to need a larger crew because you're going to be building it, duh. But if you're buying something existing, you're really wanting to pay attention to the market and make sure what you're buying is good. And 2 is property manager. And so, you know what? I have to look back. This was a long time ago. This was maybe 8 years ago. I made like a 20 questions or all of the questions that you need to ask a property manager when interviewing them. I'll go and look back and see if I still have it. If I do, I'll put it up in my stories. It's actually a great resource when you're interviewing property managers to make sure you're asking them the right questions. Byro, greetings from Nicaragua. I miss Nicaragua. I haven't been there in so long. I have a friend who's there right now. He's staying on Playa Guana, surfing Colorados. That's where I used to always go in Nicaragua. I hope all is well. Nahal, this is really alive. Yes. Sorry, I kind of lagging getting to these. He is on multiple platforms, so that's why it looks weird. He answered me. Blake, my man, I appreciate it. Oh, sick. Here we go. CDW0098. Oh, sick. Another financial freedom guru with a course to sell. CDW0098. I do not sell courses. I don't do mentorships. I don't do communities. I do not charge people to learn from me. I run a private equity real estate firm. So what my company does, we bring investors into real estate that they basically want to invest in, but they don't want to do any of the work. My company, I just looked at the numbers today. We have 685 investors. I'm managing $315 million of real estate. That is my business. That is what I do. I put out content on social media only to offer value to people who follow me. I don't charge them for it. So I have no courses at all. I'm helping some guys hang on. There we go. I'm helping some guys in Cali start an exterior molding business. Visiting this winter. Blake Dexter, let's go. Please post the questions also here on TikTok. I totally will. Barbie, hi from Cali. Where are you in Cali, Barbie? I'm in Cali as well. This is where I live. Born and raised SoCal. What do I do with $100K saved and already own a house? Still have $350K left on the home loan, and equity is expected to be about $200K from Australia. All right. Now, some of the things are different in Australia than America, but I'll give you kind of, I think, the gist of it. If you have your house and you have a mortgage on it, if you're looking at paying off your mortgage, basically the question that you're asking yourself is, what is your interest rate? Let's call it 5%. And if you pay that down or pay it off, you're basically saving yourself 5%. So the question you're asking, is there an investment in the stock market, in a real estate investment, in any of these options that can earn me more than the 5.5%? If the answer is yes, then the opportunity cost is, you're going to want to go somewhere else before you're paying off your house. If the question isn't about return, it's just about de-risk, well, then maybe paying off your house is a good idea. But I would say, your options are stocks, bonds, right? Or funds, crypto, private real estate, private credit, venture, private equity. It's going to be more what your goals are, what your risk tolerance is, and then just allocating accordingly. What's a good market to buy short-term rentals to offset taxes with cost segregation studies? Scott, okay, I don't do short-term rentals. It's not my wheelhouse. I personally don't love them, but I did do an interview with Robuilt, who was the face of the Bigger Pockets podcast, and he actually told me, and I didn't know this, that there's a Airbnb tax clause that allows you to offset or use your depreciation loss against your active income. If that's true, I haven't looked into it because I don't do them. That's pretty sick. That could be enough to get into the short-term rental game. But I don't know what good markets are, mainly because I'm not bullish on it. I don't do it, and so I don't really do the research to find out what's good. Oh, Barb, Tori's mom. Oh my gosh, how are you? Simi Valley. Let's go. I hope you are well. I absolutely adore your boys. They are They are my favorite. Tori is so awesome. I hope all is well. How do you start with little money? GE crash. Is the question, how do you invest with little money? Or is the question, how do you start making more? Let me know on that, and I'll try to give you a better answer. Or I'll try to give you the right answer. Do you recommend following the Dave Ramsey ideal of paying off all debt, cars, houses, etc., before investing? Or do it simultaneously? I'm 30 and don't want to waste time. Okay, Eric, for me, I don't... me and Dave, we have two different views on debt. And so what I would say is, if you are struggling with debt, right? You have, let me think of the best way to say this. I think getting in debt is, you have to address a behavioral issue that kind of got you there. And until you address it and solve it, that's kind of the first thing you need to do and put all your attention towards. So I would say once you kind of have figured that out, you've been doing this long enough to create the discipline, and you're no longer driving yourself further in debt, you're starting to climb out. I personally would probably start investing first. The caveat being, like, you know, I'm not paying off my house before I'm investing, but for me, I'm never paying off my house. I don't want to own real estate without debt. I think it kind of defeats one of the best things about real estate, which is debt or using debt. And so, no, I want to lever forever when it comes to real estate. As far as a car payment goes, no. Like, for me personally, I have a car payment. I invest. Like, I am not. No, I don't think that's the case. I think credit cards is the only thing that you can make a case for that you probably want to be out of credit card debt before you're investing. So I would say put all your attention towards getting out of credit card debt and then start investing. When's the last time you skated a handrail? 2000, a real handrail, like in the streets? Oh my gosh, you know what? The last handrail I skated was in Japan. I went to Japan with Sovereign. I'd already started commune at this point. Like, I hadn't been a pro skateboarder for a couple years. And the Sovereign team was going to Japan. I went with them, and I board slid and front boarded like this little, it was a 13 stair rail, but it was a little one. That was probably the last handrail I've skated. When was that? That must have been 2017, maybe 2018, somewhere around then. It's been a while. It's been a long time since I jumped on a handrail. It's been a long time since I jumped on a ledge. All right. Let's see. Eric, I hope that helped on the Dave Ramsey question. Opinions on starting a restaurant, a pop-up tent, or a food truck? Luke. Good question. Restaurants, just so you know, are insanely difficult. Most restaurants do not make it. It's very hard. For me personally, I wouldn't ever get into the restaurant space. The food truck stuff, I think, is super cool, though. I think food truck is a different scenario. But I don't know anything about it. I've never done it. And so you'd probably have to do some research on the food truck. But out of all of them, the food truck seems the coolest to me. You know, it would be a really good one to ask, and I'd probably DM him, is Nuge. DM Nuge, and because I think he does a food truck. Ask him how it's going and what you need to know if it's something you want to go into. Restaurants, I would skip. I think restaurants are a money pit. All right. River Jane Phoenix, what's the best way to be financially independent? Okay, there isn't a one way to do this. I would say, dang, my Instagram's going nuts right now. Oh, that was wild. I would say Larry Bonds, I see you. I'm going to respond to that one on gifted hater. Okay, the best way to become financially independent, first and foremost, you have to control your expenses. That's the first thing. So you need to learn how to live off a fraction of what you're making. This is typically going to come into play for high income earners, though. This is your FIRE movement. And then with that money, you're just investing in, typically in the beginning, I think it's some growth, but you're actually more focused on cash flow because you're trying to get to a point where you're living off the interest of your investments. And so, what that looks like, I would say the two best options you're going to have is either dividend stocks or real estate that's going to pay you cash flow and you're going to live off the cash flow. So that's probably one method. I would say the second method, and it's interesting because I've kind of followed both now. When I was a pro skateboarder, I followed the live off a fraction of what I'm making and get it invested. I was kind of on the FIRE grind when I was skating. And then I shifted into where I think the greatest opportunity to build your wealth is starting businesses. And so I would say those are your two options. Live off a little, get money invested, and probably focus on cash flow or dividends, or start a business. Starting the business is the big one. All right, Larry Bonds. Does Mikey know about gifted hater? I do know about gifted hater. But what I know about him is that he likes talking shit on me, likes talking shit on Paul. That's basically all I know. I found out who he was off the interview I did with P-Rod. He didn't like it, but I appreciate him. You want to send some people my way, talk about me, totally good. He's a good skater. I saw that he's a good skater. I think he's going to have to figure out, he's definitely smart. He's figured out how to create a pretty solid brand for himself. He's got an audience that is, very clearly hot. And so he's definitely a smart kid. He's going to have to figure out, though, at some point how to pivot. At least in my perspective, when you build a brand off being a hater, I don't think it has that much longevity. And then in skateboarding, it's just really hard to stay relevant as you get older. So I think he's probably going to have to figure out long-term what he's going to do with it. And look, he talks shit about me. He very clearly doesn't like me, but whatever, I still want him to succeed. And I think he's just going to have to figure out at some point what he's going to inevitably become. I don't think you can hate your way into a brand for multiple decades. So we'll see if that changes. I might be wrong. Maybe he does pull it. I wish him the best. I really hope he succeeds. I think it's cool that he built his YouTube up the way he did. Whatever happened to the Civic Hatchback you had? I sold one of them to Ryan. Wait, does Ryan Denman? Yes, Ryan Denman has one of them. And then I have another one, and something was wrong with it. Something was wrong. I had it. It was sitting for too long. And so I brought it into the shop to my friend Loker, and it's been there for 10 months. I need to call him and see what's going on with it. All right. Danny, tell that to my ex-wife. What are we telling to your ex-wife? NYC, I missed that. You missed my question. Either post it again or I'm going to try to find it real quick. Paid my house off. Should I buy another house? I would look into rental properties for sure. When building your large buildings, are you capitalizing on the Inflation Reduction Act? Luke, I don't know. What's in the Inflation Reduction Act that I could be capitalizing on? I didn't know there was anything in there that I could. All right. Oh, gosh. That is freaking amazing. Jerk. That is amazing. Making a living off being a hater. That is freaking amazing. That is really, really good. Tell that to my ex-wife. Making a living off being a hater. That's insane. You missed my question too, Mikey. Carl, hit me with the question. I'm sorry I missed it. Which businesses do you recommend? Franchises are good. Franchises actually are a pretty good way to start because they're pretty strict about where you put your location. They're really focused on demand because they want you to succeed. And they already have like the brand recognition, which is very difficult to get when you're starting a business. So I think a franchise is a good model. Energy Star and other building agencies can do tax credits and other funding for making these buildings with energy efficiency and safety standards. Oh, you know what? Maybe some of the loans we tapped into were from that. I'm trying to think. Did I take out any loans after the Inflation Reduction Act came out that were... No, I don't think I did. I did a C-PACE loan, but that was before the Inflation Act. I don't think I've tapped into it. Mikey being nice to Gifted Hater is so on brand. Who's hating on Mikey? He's skateboarding's nicest mofo. You know what? I'll tell you guys this story. He made a video about the P-Rod interview I did for our podcast, Life with Mikey. And he was hating on it. Like, he did not like it. And I DM'd him. I was like, big dog, why don't we have you on the show? Like, I would love to just talk to you about this in person. And he didn't want to come on. He made some excuse about, I don't get enough views to have him and I needed to pay him. And I was like, I did lose a little bit of, whatever. I don't not like him. I don't even know the kid. I've never even seen him in real life. I was hoping that he would be at the point where he could sit down and have a conversation. He didn't want to. And so hopefully we can do that in the future. I would love to talk to him. Like, totally good if you don't like me, disagree with me, see it different. I would just love to hear your opinion and be able to ask you questions. That's the biggest thing, right? When you're sitting behind, like what I'm doing right now, right? Nobody's challenging what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you can challenge it in the comments, but like, I'm not sitting in front of somebody and having them challenge my ideas. You get to a much, let me think about the best way to say this. When somebody's pressing you, you find out pretty quickly if what you're saying is actually real or not. And you will inevitably land on, do you both have valid points and are you just seeing it different? Or, is one of you just, you're kind of, your thought or thesis is weak. It's just not built out. I would love to do that with him, but at the end of the day, like, I want what's best for him. Like, look, I'll tell you this, and this is even for the handful of people that like I didn't get along with in the skate industry. There weren't a ton, but there were some. I want them to succeed. I want every skateboarder to succeed. I want them making money. I want them happy. I want them enjoying life. Like, I personally think skateboarders are some of the most talented people on this earth. Like, I want them to do well. But like, I think the other thing too is like, I don't really get my feelings hurt when people don't like me. And so, that's probably the biggest one. Like, he could not like me. I'm still living my life and loving it. It just doesn't change the way I function, Can I help expand your investor base throughout the Southeast? I applied for investor relations, but believe I could raise a ton throughout the Southeast in any case. Thanks. Scruffy Nuts. We've spoken on lives before. I still think it's so funny that your handle is Scruffy Nuts. What is your name? I have my Tawny right now is going through all the applications, and she's going to start working at scheduling meetings. What is your name so that I can give it to Tawny to make sure she pulls your application and I can go over it with her? So let me know. I can't just say, make sure you see Scruffy Nuts. All right. And then the other thing, and this is, well, we can go over that after, but let me know your name so that I can pull it or tell Tawny. Wait, who are you talking about? Aaron, we're talking about this kid, Gifted Hater. If you're a skater, you probably know who he is. If not, he's a skater. He's got a YouTube channel. And Gifted Hater, his thing is talking shit on people. All right. What are your thoughts on the heavy Trump tariff proposal? Kosher-holic. Kosher Hulk. Are you kosher? My business partner is kosher. If you are, that's pretty epic. Okay, my thoughts on Trump's tariff proposal. If he's going to just put down big tariffs on everyone, I don't think it's going to be good. If he's going to use tariffs as leverage to get countries to do things that are in the that are going to benefit America, I think it's going to be good. So we will see. Maybe you could do a light combo, but I would say if it's a tool, it's going to be good. If it's just tariff everyone, it's going to be bad. That would be my outlook. What's your outlook on the dollar strength going forward, medium, long term? I think the dollar has the ability right now to become a lot stronger. Kyle Smith, but LinkedIn apps was closed, so I emailed Michael and you with a lot of info. Kyle Smith, writing it down right now. Okay. All right. Damn, missed my question again. Carl, you know what? I am going to scroll up and I'm going to find it. My apologies. I'm not going to make you write it again. Let me find your question. Hang on. Let's see. Where? You missed my question too, Mikey. Okay, Carl. I see that you said you missed my question, and now I'm getting all the way down to you saying you missed it again, but I'm not seeing the question, dog. You got to ask it again, I guess. Yep. Okay, no question. Oh, yep, no question. Okay, not actually kosher, just Jewish. Thanks for your response, my man. We actually have one of my favorite places. Because my business partner's kosher, we go eat at a bunch of kosher restaurants. We have some really good ones around here. Business-wise, what kind of businesses you recommend or you are involved in? Okay, so the businesses that I'm involved in, one, I started Commune Capital. So I am a founder and owner of Commune. And then I own a digital marketing agency with Eric Bork. So we do paid advertising for companies with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Google. And those are the two businesses that I own myself. And then I am invested in some startups. I'm invested in an alcohol brand that my old partner with St. Archer did. I'm invested in a fintech company. I'm invested in a thrift shop company. I'm invested in a golf brand called Good Boy. They make golf gear. And is that it? I might be missing one. All right, let's see. Carl, I'm not seeing any of your questions. I'm seeing all your comments, so I think you're effing with me, G. Is 2,200 hard copy skate videos a good long-term investment? Sark, my wife is very patient. That's good. That's really good. You've signed a few over the years, by the way. Some videos? All right. Blake, if you had to start a business outside of real estate, what would you do? If I had to start a business outside of real estate, I'd probably start a private equity firm, like a traditional private equity firm. And I would probably go around and buy businesses that had some type of value add opportunity, buy them, build them up, and then sell them, I think is what I would do. So it would look similar to what I do in real estate. I would bring investors in with me. I would find, opportunities to buy a business at a discount or a struggling business that I could, build back up and then sell it and then pay investors money. And then I would get to participate in a percentage of the revenue or the profit. That's probably what I would do there. Angel, put it up right here, baby. Hit the question in the comment and I'll get you. I remember skating City Hall in Philadelphia with you. That was a long time ago. It's good to hear from you. Can we get a Smith grind clip? Oh, it's been a while since I've done a Smith grind. Yeah, we got to. Somebody actually asked me if I could put more skating and lifestyle in content. I probably need to do that. How are your businesses structured? Do you own a holding company, trust, or have you done estate planning? They are held in my trust. Yeah, I've done estate planning. Yeah, I started doing that a long time ago, actually. Tips for popping nollie better. It's all practice. That's it. Just sit there and do them over and over and over. Where do you usually meet investors? That's a really good question. Okay, so the majority of my investors now come online from social media. That wasn't always the case, though. I got my first start with my first business, and I raised money through friends and family. And then I sold that business. We had a very large exit, and so we paid everybody a lot of money. And so because of that, the group that I had that was investors, they now wanted to invest with me, with the next thing I did. And there were a lot of people that heard about my exit. So I did have a pretty good base of investors. And then, in the beginning with Commune, before we started getting the majority of our capital coming online, I would go to everything. I would go to real estate conferences. I'd go to investor meetups. I would go to golf tournaments. I would go anywhere that there were people, and I would just spend time building relationships. And then that kind of relationship source, knew what I did, and they would either hit me up to ask if I had any real estate that they could invest in, or I would reach out to them when I had investment deals. And then all of that changed about 4 years ago. We started getting investors online, and then I got to a point now where a lot of our capital comes from social media, a ton. And so if that's something you want to do, those are your options. You do it the old school way and you build relationships. If you're in real estate, I guess you could potentially engage a broker dealer and they go raise money for you. Or you build a brand online, people know what you're doing, you promote that you have deals, and then basically you get to create a piece of content that goes out to the masses. That's a good way to do it as well. Young investor, should I invest in my Roth with all-time market highs? Hunter, for me personally, I don't care where the market is. I was taught a long time ago not to try to time the market, that all you should focus on is discipline. So I think the best thing to do is find out how much you can put into investments every month or every other week and just stick to it, right? Every other Thursday is investment day, and you're going to put $200 in your Roth, $200 in the market, $500, whatever it is, and then just stick to it. That, I think, is the best way to do it. I don't care where the market is, though. I don't care if it's at the bottom. I don't care if it's at the top. I'm investing. I've been doing that for 20 years. It's been great for me. I came to the same conclusion with a business to start. You get huge volume and good margins. That's right. When did you start investing, before or after skating? Chris, I started investing when I was skating, when I was 19. Was I 19? Let me think. I was either 19 or 20, right when I started. So basically, right when I started making money, the very first year I had to pay taxes. That shocked me. I had a pretty good amount of money saved up, and then it all went away for taxes. And then the following year, I got a financial advisor, and he started helping me invest, and I've been investing ever since. So I want to say it was probably 20 I started investing. So that was 22 years ago is when I started. Who told you to do so? My parents. So my parents were pretty freaked out, actually, when I told them that I wasn't going to go to college and I was going to become a pro skateboarder or try to become a pro skateboarder. They were pretty concerned. And so one thing that my parents really wanted me to get help with was with my finances. And I wasn't even making any money. I was barely making anything. But they pushed me to get a financial advisor. And then my first time with him, he asked me a question that I just had never heard before, which was, what's your financial freedom number? And I was like, I didn't even know what financial freedom was. And so I was like, I don't know. Like, what does financial freedom mean? And he said, well, financial freedom is when you get to a point where you have so many investments that are paying you either cash flow or a dividend, or maybe the more technical way to say it is interest off your investments, that you can start living off the dividend. And so your, let's call it nest egg of investment. Let's say you have $1 million invested. That $1 million never goes down because you're only living off the, let's say 6% or $60,000 that it's spitting off, right? And so when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never heard of anything like that. Like that sounds amazing. And then he goes, what's your number? And I was like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean, what's my number? And so then he basically broke down this idea that you can reverse engineer it. So, he started me with, how much money do you need to live off of? And at this point, I think I was making, I don't know, $30,000 a year. This is a long time ago. And so, and I was good, right? I was loving life, like no care, no cares at all. And he goes, okay, so you're going to need more than that, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe. I'm like, probably if I can make 50 grand a year passively, I'm good. I'm financially free. And then he goes, okay, cool. Do you ever want to get married? I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you ever want to get kids? Do you ever want to have kids? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, we're probably gonna have to bring that number up. So basically where we landed, let me think. Back then, we landed on, did we land on 3 million? I think back then we landed on $3 million, right? 180K a year, I think is where we landed. And 180K a year, 150K a year, that's what I think it is. Okay, let's go back to the freaking beginning and figure out what my goal was. Part of me wants to say it was $3 million was my goal. Okay, so let's see. If I've had $3 million, right, and I think I was expecting a 4% return. Yeah, okay. No, I was expecting a 5. That's what it was. Okay, so I reverse engineered it, and we decided that my goal was going to be $3 million, and I could comfortably pull 5% from that and live off that 5% long term, right? That was my goal. And so, that was probably very far away for a kid that was making $30,000, $35,000 a year. But this was the part that he gave me. It was one of the most valuable things I was ever taught. And if I could say this to anyone, this would be it. He basically told me that the game is maintaining your expenses and then focusing on making more money. That's the game. And so back then, if I was spending $25,000 a year, $30,000 a year, the goal would be, how do I start making 70 grand a year? How do I start making 150 grand a year and still maintain that $30,000 expense? And so that's what I set out to do. And I had a point where I was making a pretty good amount of money and I was living off nothing. So I was maximizing investments, not to get me to the point of a $3 million portfolio by the time my career ended, but I was on the path to about $1 million. I think while I was skateboarding, if you're looking at just the passive investments I was doing, I think I got to about $1 million. What catapulted it for me is I started my first business and then I exited my first business. And when I did that, I passed the $3 million goal that we had. But this is kind of what happened. I looked at my wife and we started making decisions on how we wanted to live. And I got to the point where we were financially independent and I could have not worked another day in my life, but I would have had to make some lifestyle changes and we probably would have had to leave California, would probably be my guess. And so I looked at her and went, I don't know if I, want to just be retired. I really enjoy building business. And 2, I don't know if, I think I want a little bit more. I don't want to leave California. I don't want to live the rest of our life tripping about, making sure we have enough interest coming in so that we can get by. I'd rather just build something else and then not have to worry about it. And so I increased that number. That number went, originally it was at 3, and I 10x'd it. So I put it at 30. And so I'm not there yet. How long do I think it's going to be till I get there? That's a good question. And it's going to depend. There's a lot of variables, but I would say sooner than later. I actually probably need to reverse engineer that and figure out what my timeline is and see if that's another 5 years or if that's another 7 to 10. I probably need to look into that. What is enough wealth where you never have to worry? User 44547. That depends on the individual. That really does. I would say if you're living in California, it's going to be more, of course, than if you're living in Idaho or Alabama or, somewhere where the cost of living is a little bit less. I would say if you're talking about never having to worry, it's a big number. What I found is even my friends that are worth like 30, 40 million bucks, 50 million bucks, they actually still worry about finances, which is insane. But I would say here's the best way to say it. This is where I think what everybody needs to kind of prepare for. Getting to $1 million is always the hardest. The first million is the hardest. The second million is equally as hard, right? But once you get to 1, your next goal is 5, right? Once you get to 5, next goal is 10, and going from 5 to 10 actually isn't that hard. The hardest is 0 to 1, and then 1 to 2 is pretty tough. Going from 5 to 10 isn't that hard. Once you get to 10, you can pretty much pick the number. You can pick the number that you want, and you have a path to get there. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, doesn't mean it's going to come without sacrifice, but that's kind of how all the wealthiest people advise you. 1, 5, 10. When you get to 10, you get to pick what you want. Congress is still enabling genocide. How are you helping with your position on council? City council. So city council operates the business of the city. And so that's it. We don't operate business for the county, the state, the nation. We definitely don't have anything to do with foreign policy. So city council doesn't do anything with that. How did you change your skating Instagram profile to more business forward? Dealing with haters, or was it a slow transition with content? Austin. Okay, this was, out of all the things I've ever done, I've started a good amount of businesses now. Ran for city council, became a pro skateboarder, married, kids. The transitioning, my Instagram was one of the hardest things I have ever done. It was so hard. So basically, what I decided to do was take it very slow. I would, if I was posting a skate trick every day, once a week, I'd introduce some type of like business content. And I would do it very subtle in the beginning. I'd post maybe a photo with me and my family, and then the caption would be a little bit more like motivational or entrepreneurial. And then I would just increase it. I would like go from once a week to twice a week to 3 times a week. But I did that over a probably 6 or 7 month span. And so in the beginning, I remember that the life I was living and the life that people saw on social media were completely different. I was buying real estate, building commune, and my content still had majority skate content. And that probably took about 10 to 12 months until what you saw on Instagram was what I was actually doing, which felt good. Now, what type of hate was I getting? Oh my gosh, a lot. It was overwhelming. And I was just bleeding followers, bleeding them, right? I probably lost 150,000 followers, maybe 200,000 followers during that transition. And that was hard. The reason why I say it was so hard is when you're starting a new business, it's tough, right? You're trying to get it going. And for me, I was dealing with like an identity change as well. And when you're listening to people over and over telling you that you suck, that you're blowing it, that you shouldn't do what you're doing, it's freaking brutal. It's brutal. Grant Cardone, caption me some motivation. Grant Cardone, I appreciate you, big dog. I saw you at a conference. It looks like you're taking down some big properties, my G. So this is actually something that Grant Cardone is saying right now, and this is something very valuable, and it's interesting because I met Grant after I was a pro skateboarder. So Grant actually didn't know this, that I was even going through this transition. But what Grant is saying right here, I actually told myself over and over, and there was something that Gary Vee actually said that helped, which was, one, successful people do not hate on others trying to build. They don't. Like, I do not hate on people trying to build stuff. That's why I'm not hating on Gifted Hater. So that's one. Two, Gary Vee said something that I stuck with. When I was transitioning 10 years ago or so out of being a pro skateboarder, and everybody was telling me, don't do this, stop it, you're not an investor, you're not a financial advisor, you don't have a certificate or license, go back to skateboarding. It was all of that, right? What I told myself over and over is, I just have to do this long enough where I will inevitably run them out to exhaustion. And I will get to a point where I won't even be known as the pro skateboarder anymore. I'll be known as a real estate investor or an entrepreneur. And that probably legit took 3 years, probably. I would say TikTok was a big driver in that one, right? Because TikTok was the first platform that I didn't have to transition. I got to start anew on TikTok and it exploded. I got to like 800,000 followers, not as a pro skateboarder. And then I was like, here was when everything changed. I was golfing at Westlake Golf Course. I was with George Gankis. I was hitting balls, right? And when people know who you are, you can kind of tell when somebody recognizes you, right? So I could tell that somebody recognized me. They were looking at me and, he walked up to me. He's like, how do I know you? And I looked at him like, you probably skateboarded as a kid? Like, were you a skater? And he goes, no. Like, he looked at me like, why would you even say that? Like, no, I'm not a skater. And I'm like, huh. And he goes, you're on TikTok. I follow you for your investment advice. I love you. The first time that happened, I went, oh my gosh, this has become something new. And now more people know me for this than they did skateboarding. So I would say you just have to remind yourself every day what you're doing, what the end goal is. And I think what Grant said is actually really important. Successful people don't hate on you. The people that hate on you are the ones that see what you're doing, and what you're doing makes them feel a certain way, right? And this is kind of a big game changer, right? If you let's use Grant for an example, right? Because Grant's on top of his game with what he's doing, right? If I had some insecurities that I was dealing with, and I saw Grant, and something Grant said pissed me off to the point of me needing to talk shit, it's because Grant did something that struck one of my insecurities that made me feel a certain way, right? When you feel good about yourself, when you know what you're supposed to be doing in life, even if somebody says something at you, it doesn't bother you anymore. And so I think that's one. I think the second thing is anyone who's built a business knows how brutal it is. And so whenever you see someone else building something, you want to encourage them, because just the step of actually starting something is one of the hardest things you ever do. And I have a lot of respect for people that do that. So I would say be in it for the long haul. Vic Blends, this is a perfect example as well. I got Vic in here. We got Grant in here. Vic, I saw that you got engaged. Congratulations, my man. That is one of the best things I have ever done, was find a girl that I absolutely loved and wanted to spend my life with. I've been with her 14 years now. I'm actually taking her to Paris next week. We have 4 kids together. Here would be my marriage advice for everyone in here, right? Find somebody who makes you better. Find somebody who pushes you, who challenges you. And if you're a man, this is a big one for us. You have to find somebody who respects you. That's a big one. Respect is how we that's what men need. For girls, at least what I've experienced, like in my wife, there had to be more than looks for me. Like, yes, I wanted to be attracted to my wife, of course, but I needed more than that. I needed to have somebody who like I respected as well, who I wanted their input, their feedback on. So I'm stoked for you, brother Vic, and I love what you're doing. Talk about sticking with it. Like, you guys want to hear a motivational story. Oh my gosh, Vic is living it. My man just cut Obama's hair, right? Vic, how long ago were you just trying to figure this out and building a following on, I think you started on TikTok, right? And now you've got your brand. You are everywhere, my man. And you're a skater. I freaking love it, dude. I'm so stoked for you. I really am. All right. Also, get back on the deck. Miss the Skate-More days. DVS hype. I got to get back on the deck. I feel that. I definitely got to get back on the deck. It's been too long. Love it, bro. Thanks. I appreciate you. Advice for somebody who's lazy. I know what I should be doing, but can't get myself to start. Yeah, that's a good one. So I would say, well, there's a few ways you can go about it. Like, there's accountability. There's a really good book called Traction that will help you kind of create the rules or create the metrics that you need to follow to get going. That's really big. But if you're having a hard time getting started, I would probably say maybe what you're doing, maybe you're doing the wrong thing. Like, I think actually there's this idea that you should be doing your passion. I used to think this actually was skateboarding, but I've changed my view on it. I think it's more about finding what your purpose is. Like, why are you here? Why were you put on this planet? And then finding a way to use that in your career or job. That you don't even need to like watch a motivational video to get going, because you're so driven by like, or maybe the better way to say it is, when you start doing the things that reflect like your God-given talent, those things energize you. They don't draw from you. You enjoy it. And so I would probably start by answering that question. You're not going to be able to answer it overnight. That's a deep question. It took me years to figure out what my purpose was. But I would spend some time really being able to answer the why am I here question. And once you can answer that, then it makes it a little bit easier to find the either job or business, or even if it's a nonprofit, which it might be, then you can kind of figure out the clear path, and then motivation is just, it just comes, That makes sense? I hope that made sense. Do you need to delegate something? I have a lot of free time, and I have a couple skills that come from e-com. They call me. I love that. So the thing that right now we are delegating, we're actually hiring right now, is for an investor relations, somebody on the capital raising side. We're hiring 3 to 4 people right now. That is the need right now for the company. I have more projects than I can't raise money fast enough for good projects right now. That's how crazy the shift has become. Mikey, how can I invest in your property portfolio if I'm international outside of the USA? Waz Wakes, you can invest. There's just sometimes there's tax withholdings depending on the country you're in. But if you want, just DM me, or put right now in the comment section, just comment the word invest. It's going to trigger a software that you can that will basically DM you a link. You can put in your information, then I'll have somebody from the team call you, show you what you're doing, and then we can see if it works. I have had investors in the past invest with us internationally. I have had investors that did not invest because they had a tax withholding that was pretty large. Have you ever dealt with anxiety? I have dealt with anxiety, but not bad. I think that's because, well, I would say the most I've ever experienced anxiety was probably after my skate career. But, if you look at anxiety or depression, right? Like, what do they say? Depression is fear of the past. Anxiety is fear of the future. For me, on the anxiety standpoint, like, I don't fear much, actually. Like, I don't fear the future. I don't fear death. I don't really fear the unknown. And for me personally, how I was able to get there, that all came from faith in God. That was the only way. I'm not sure you can remove anxiety without that. I guess the idea is, if we're here for a reason, we're temporarily here, but we're eternity minded, then okay, what is there to fear? Like, if everything's in his hands and his plan, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure if anxiety comes into play. So I don't know. That's kind of how I've gotten there. Some of my other friends that have dealt with anxiety that aren't religious, it seems like they're in either counseling, or they have these like steps that they have to follow to kind of walk themselves off the ledge, I guess is the other way to say it. But that never worked for me. I think the only reason why I've never struggled with it is more because I'm just not fearful of what's to come, I would say. Depression isn't really why. Believe in something that takes power away from you. Wakes. Yep, that's the only thing for me too. All right, 4:30. I have to run. I've got to get over to a date night with my wife. Real quick, Reagan, I'll answer this before I go. My serious question: what was the major change from skating to where you are now? Seemed to go from skate rat to full-blown adult investor. Yours went from 0 to 100. Okay, so the reason why it seemed like it went 0 to 100 is because that's kind of what you saw online, but it actually was longer than that. So it all started for me on the investing side, actually, when I was a skater. I just never told anyone about it other than P-Rod, Malto, Jerron, who else? Chris Cole. Like, I had friends that were a little bit more business-minded, that were like my boys. We talked about investing and stuff, but I never mentioned a thing to anybody else. And then when we started St. Archer, that was years behind the scenes of me building a business. I just wasn't forward-facing content-wise on it. I was more using my content just to promote St. Archer so people would buy it. It wasn't until Commune that I became the face. And so that was actually out of desperation, to tell you the truth. Like, I actually never planned on being this. Like, the front-facing, talking about investing, being the face of the brand, I never intentionally was going to be with Commune. It wasn't even in my business plan. My original business plan was going to be taking investors and highlighting investors the way we did with St. Archer. Like, if you looked at St. Archer, we had ambassadors. All of those ambassadors were investors. And we told their story. That's what I was going to do with Commune, except I wanted to talk about investing, mistakes they made. Like, I wanted to use their story to be Commune. And I couldn't get people to talk about money. Like, my whole marketing idea, brand idea went away when I couldn't get investors to feel comfortable going online. And so out of desperation, I was just like, okay, screw it. I'm doing it. I'll be the guy. It's on me. And so here I am. 8 years later, I'm the guy talking about money, but I never intended to do this in the beginning. All right. How often do you do lives? I do them twice a week, typically around 4 o'clock. Today I had to do a little bit early because I have a little date night with my wife. All right. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the day. I will see you guys. Let's see. Can I do it tomorrow? Friday. Let's do a live on Friday. I will see you guys then. All right. Love ya.